Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show. On this podcast, you'll learn from professional players, coaches, and executives from all over the world and see the court in a brand new way. And now, joining you courtside, your Gen Z host, John Hartofilis.
Hey, Coach Ronnie, what's going on?
How are we doing, John?
Doing great. Excited to have you on, and super cool being in the Bulls video room for this call, just seeing all this stuff in the background, seeing just, you're in the room where all the magic happens for the Chicago Bulls. So it's fun getting a chance to speak to you, and really can't wait to jump right into it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Awesome. So just to start us off, can you kind of give us some background going back to your playing career, whether it's thinking about Montclair High School, when you were at UNC Greensboro in college, even overseas? Obviously, you had a really great and long career before you went into this coaching journey. What did that all look like?
I think I just been really lucky. I didn't have a lot of expectations for my playing career as a high schooler. I didn't really start to take the game seriously until I was a junior or senior and thought that I had a future in playing. My college coach who recruited me, who's now with the Iowa Hawkeyes, Fran McCaffrey, was the first person that instilled in me the idea of actually playing professionally and gave me the confidence that I was going to be able to make it to that level. And I did. He was and still is my role model as a coach, probably the most important figure I've had, in my life from the coaching side or a male figure to help me get to where I've been able to get to. And, I still support him, obviously, and vice versa. UNC Greensboro was a good place for me as a mid-major player. I really was able to develop my game, gain confidence and get stronger in the things that it takes to become a pro. I was taught how to be a professional by him. And that's how you sustain over a decade-long career in Europe. Had my shot, to try out for a couple of NBA teams that didn't work out. But, I'm just lucky from where I'm from to have that type of experience and that chance. So, I look back on my career with just gratitude, fortunate to have been the places I've been because of this game.
So important to have mentors like that. And I saw, of course, when talking about making the league, the summer league, and playing with the Sonics when Katie was a rookie, I thought that was just super cool. And I saw that, I was like, oh wow, that's such a cool experience, and obviously a lot of fun chasing that dream. Moving over everything you're doing with coaching, what was that transition like? Obviously, from you going from playing overseas, now coming back to the States, starting at Florida Atlantic, being a grad assistant there for a little bit while continuing your education. What did that decision to go back into coaching and keep continuing this path for the game look like for you?
Well, it's funny. It's difficult is the first thing I'll say. Transitioning from playing to anything at any level is difficult, and a lot of players, former athletes, whatever level it may be, have struggles that they go through as they transition into their second careers. And it's a hard thing, right? So I kind of stumbled into coaching. I never had a dream to be a coach. I wanted to work in the front office. So I thought, more so. And one of the other things that I wanted to do always was go back and get my master's after I finished playing. So that was my first goal. I went back and got my MBA after I retired. And in doing so as a grad assistant, I kind of fell in love, quote unquote, with being on the basketball floor. And that's kind of how I rolled back into coaching. And I decided to take the coaching track, which led me into my job in the video room in the G League and so forth. So I'm sure we'll get into those things. But yeah, I never had the intention of being a coach while I was playing. And it just so happened that I fell in love with it after retirement.
Of course, and thank you for going into the why behind why you did it, because obviously for a lot of people, they're still struggling with the decision now as to what career path they're looking to take. And everyone that's listening to this show, everyone that I know really loves basketball, but they don't really know how to express it. And thank you for sharing how you felt was best for you to express that. I mean, obviously now you're in the video room right now. In terms of physically, you're physically in the video room right now. I'm kind of thinking back to when you first got your foot in the door at the league with the Nets as a video assistant. Talk to us about that, because you always see it on NBA TV when the finals come around about Eric Spoelstra starting in the video room, all these great coaches going through the ranks, but they all started there. What were those first days on the job like? Taking all that in, how did that all play out for you?
I remember when I first got the job, some of the more senior coaches that had been around told me that working in the video room is like getting your Ph.D. in basketball in the NBA. I credit Brett Brownmeyer, who's now the head coach of the Long Island Nets, told me this, and I remember it. And I didn't know what to expect after he said that, but after a year working with the Brooklyn Nets staff as an assistant video and player development, you kind of get a crash course into the NBA You learn every team's tendencies. You work the long hours. You watch the most film in the building, and it's just a great way to familiarize yourself with all of the players, other team styles of play. And it's something, the skill sets that you learn working video comes the hard way. It's a difficult job, but it's one of the most valuable experiences I've had personally. That year was very valuable to my career, I believe. And I think that I learned things that I'll be using hopefully for a long time.
Of course, because it's funny. You can think about it as a PhD in basketball, really learning just so much about everything that goes into it behind the scenes. Then obviously, while with the Long Island Nets, you got promoted to assistant coach the following year. Going from video room to assistant to coaching on the floor and doing what you maybe envisioned from the start, obviously must have been a great deal for you. And what was that first season like with the Nets, and seeing what it's like, obviously now going from knowing what overseas is like in all these other leagues to now really taking the G League in, which is such a unique league?
Yeah, no, it was huge for me. I have to thank the people under the Brooklyn Nets organization for having confidence to allow me to go be a G League assistant coach, and kind of transfer and put into action what I learned in the video room. It was the perfect stepping stone. I feel like I haven't skipped steps, and for that reason, it's helped me I'm on the path of becoming a well-rounded coach, right? Because I'm still in the midst of this journey. Being an assistant coach in the G League was really fulfilling for me, because I felt like I was at a similar level as a player, come from similar places, and had a similar journey as a lot of the guys that I was now coaching, right? So I had a lot of care for the players. I always took my time to try to advise them on their careers and life choices. And I think from a basketball standpoint, we had a great staff, guys who played and coached, experienced from all different backgrounds. And we ended up having a really good season. The G League is a great place to learn to coach. It was the first time I had been back on a bench since I was a grad assistant. The G League is a place where you can make mistakes, you can try new things, and you have autonomy to do so. From your parent club, it's great. And Brooklyn did that for me and for us. It was an unforgettable year. One of the things I remember thinking is that it's like you're thrown into the fire as a coach, because from game to game, you never know what players will be assigned to you, how the rosters will change, how your opponent's rosters will change on a game-to-game basis. So the team that we started coaching at the beginning of the season, the roster looked completely different from the end of the season. And you have to make so many adjustments on the fly as far as game planning, that it really, really helped me personally develop as a coach, I believe. And I'd advise anyone that can get an experience coaching in the G League, can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with it.
Thank you for that, because a lot of the guests that come on the show are G League assistants, and then all my people in the sports industry that maybe in my sports business club, they're college students, say, why do you focus so much on the G League? And I'm like, because the G League's awesome. There's so much to learn from there, and it's so cool. And so the casual fan might not think that, but if you really know basketball, you see the value in it for sure. And it's thank you for sharing that, because thinking about how the freedom you have in the G League to make mistakes and viewing it as such a learning experience to where now you're with the Chicago Bulls just a year later. It's incredible to think about that. So obviously that's what you're doing now, and it's so cool what you're doing with the Bulls. I'm curious, how did that come out? Because obviously with COVID-19, everything got thrown out of place, whether it's with teams and the G League not having a season until just recently, and everything be going up in the air. What was that process like for you? Once the season got canceled and the Long Island Nets season was cut short, now being kind of stuck in limbo for a few months, and then now lining up with the Bulls. All
right. And once again, I just have to express a lot of gratitude for just being here. I'm fortunate. Anyone's fortunate to have their health and a job, in this new COVID world, right? So that happened for me, and I'm very, very fortunate to have gotten this opportunity. I remember when the season was canceled in March, we were actually in Chicago with the Long Island Nets getting ready for a game against Windy City when when everything changed, right? Months later, like so many coaches, I was without a job, and it's one of those things where the hard work and the relationships that you build, the effort that you put into networking, and I think of myself as a person that has a pretty consistent character. People that know me, and they know that I'm kind of the same. You'll get the same responses about me by the people that know me, right? So the network that I had, they paid it back to me at that point and offered me a job. Some of the people that I knew that were with the Chicago Bulls were looking for someone of my skill set, with my experience. And when I tell you, I couldn't have been more relieved and fortunate to have an opportunity to work, to continue my journey in the NBA and around a team who was in the midst of a regime change, and getting to meet a new front office and a new coaching staff. it's been the best. At the worst possible time that a lot of us are going through, I was, given this opportunity. So, yeah, I'm very thankful for that, and it's been great so far. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you for that, because it's great knowing it's not so much networking, it's so much building just great long lasting relationships that have obviously helped you so much. And even in the worst times in generations, that you're able to obviously having good people around you get through it, which is thank you for sharing that. Coach, tell us about obviously being a player development coordinator, how that might be different from the roles you've had in the past. Maybe it's a little bit different than being an assistant coach, but still very similar. And how do you see that? How's that role been for you in really being your first step into the NBA?
Right. Well, I've been lucky enough to still, keep myself in shape enough to help the players physically on the floor, right? And I think that that's where I became an asset to the coaching staffs that I worked under first, right? And that's what gave me an opportunity to really learn what coaching in the NBA is about, So, and I think that this role that I'm in now is still similar. We're here to support the assistant coaches, the head coach, and we're here for the players more so than anything, right? I take pride in feeling like I help a player. When you watch a guy play, maybe something that you worked on with them, in the past days or weeks, or something that you've talked about over the off season, and they apply it, and it gives you a sense of pride. And we're always rooting for the guys that do well. So we want to give them things to help them play better, to win the game that we have right now, right? Game specific things, and then we work on things that'll help them as their careers progress down the line, right? So we're here to keep you talk about players as tools, right? Keep the tools sharp. Make sure they're confident in what their abilities are. Help to identify where their weaknesses are. And I think that's where my expertise comes in coaching, and being a former player, has helped me kind of excel in that way.
It's great to think about how not just your experience as a player and all that, but also tying that in with what you've done in the video room as an assistant coach last year with the Nets. There's so many things that go into what makes you unique as a player development coach and how you're able to get the best out of your guys. Thinking about those guys, when you think about the Bulls, the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is the scoring machine that is Zach Lavine. I'm curious, he wasn't named an all-star starter yesterday, but it's in the coming days, it's almost to what most people think. He definitely should be named an all-star with the absolute tear he's been on all season long. What have you really seen from him in regards to his work ethic, how he's been training with you? What have you seen there in just the first few months of knowing him?
Well, first, I was just highly impressed with him as a young man, as a man, and as a person. Like, just a pleasure to be around, And I haven't been around him a long time, but he's been a pleasure, right? His work ethic is impressive. The way he takes care of his body, impressive. Everything that you would expect from a player of his caliber, and to see the jump that he took from last season to this season, where he already was. I understand how that happened, right? For a player like him. And as far as the All-Star thing, obviously we all here are rooting for him and wishing him the best. I believe he deserves it, So, but yeah, and then there's times where you're around a player of his caliber, and all of these guys, mind you, there's every player in the NBA is good, right? All these guys are world-class athletes. And then you have some people like Zach, who's just amazing to watch, right? Some of the things that he's capable of. So he's a guy who's also very coachable, which is admirable for a player of his caliber, to still be very coachable, humble, and hungry. And even though he may be just approaching his prime, he's got a long, bright future.
Thinking about the work you do with all these players, Coach, what is it? Do you travel with the team? What does your day-to-day look like in the Bulls organization, and in terms of what your involvement is with the team and in what they do every day?
Well, that's a good question. So we have a couple of player development coordinators in our department. And, with the limits on travel parties in the NBA because of the COVID restrictions and the caution that we go about trying to get through this season, we don't travel on every trip. We split up the responsibilities of travel. So we do travel occasionally. They'll always take a certain amount of people, whatever the necessary staff is, right? So yes, we travel. Day-to-day varies. Game days are always long days, just in making sure the players are prepared to play, taking care of the players who perhaps won't play or haven't played as many minutes, keeping them sharp and in shape. A lot of that falls on us, which is hard to do when you're playing a schedule of sometimes 4 and 5 games in a week. There's players who may not play that much in the game that have to still be ready for the minutes that they perhaps are going to get and stay in game shape and stay sharp. So that falls on us. We really take that responsibility very seriously, because every player is important on the roster. You never know when a guy's going to be needed, especially with all of the COVID protocol and injuries happen. You never know when you'll have to call on your 13th guy or a two-way player in this NBA, right? So a lot of that falls on us to keep them ready. And we just spend most of our day on the court with the players, whatever their needs are, whatever the assistant coaches are working on with those players, we're there to support them. Sometimes we'll even play with the guys. Sometimes we'll be charged with doing video work for certain players, perhaps breaking down a scenario that the players struggled with the night before, right? Sometimes we'll be charged to help assistant coaches with game planning for the next games, right? So we have a myriad of things that we do. The most important thing that I could tell anyone in any kind of job like this is just to remain flexible, and we have a mentality as a department that we're just here to do whatever it takes that day, right? And we have the skill set to do it. So it's definitely a team first, next guy up type of mentality, which would become cliches, but our job, that kind of details my day in a nutshell.
Thank you for that. And it's great to think about how you're there for all 13, 14, 15 guys on the roster, not just the starting lineup or anything like that. But it's because it's really everyone plays. It's a team game. It's a team environment that the Bulls are running. And that's kind of the approach you have to take. I'm thinking about some other guys that are really showing out this year. I can't help but think of Patrick Williams, who obviously as a rookie, when you get praise from LeBron James, you're doing something right. What have you seen with him being that he's been there almost as long as you have, both getting to the Bulls organization at around the same time? What have you seen from him in his development? And as a rookie now, he has so much room to grow. Where do you see him ending up?
I mean, high ceiling. What else can you say? Has all the tools, the right approach, physically gifted, right? And once again, just like Zach, seems like just a really, really good young man. Won't do anything to hurt himself. So I really root for him. He's been a pleasure to be around and to work with so far. And I think he's in a great place. He's lucky. He was taken high. He's in a new regime, like I said, a new coaching staff. He's got great coaches working with him, and he absorbs everything. And I think he's improved at a rapid rate so far, faster than maybe he even expected. He gets tough matchups every night. He's guarded numerous Hall of Famers in his young career already, right? And you can't help but learn from that. So, I look forward to Patrick having, once again, a long, great career.
Definitely in a situation where he's able to thrive. And it's interesting because being taken at the 4th pick, I remember watching the draft and everyone was saying how that was a little too high, but he's obviously outperformed that recently. So it's great to see some guy hear the outside noise and completely shut it out. So awesome thinking about how he's been playing. Who are some other guys on the Bulls that we should really, maybe it's even two-way guys that you're working with and that you're really excited to see what the next few weeks, months, maybe even next season, or maybe after the offseason could look out for them. Who may be like those 2-3 guys that you would probably warn fans about, like pick them up on your fantasy team, take a look at these guys, don't miss them because they're getting better fast.
Yeah, I don't think without divulging too much, I don't think we have any secrets here that we have a young team that's full of talent and guys that have high ceilings, all the way down our roster. We've got to be one of the younger teams in the league. I don't know the numbers on that, but it's going to be interesting to watch how these guys develop and grow because they're so young and so gifted. I think you look at guys like Wendell and Lowry, Markkanen, Kobe White. Are what people consider our young core. In my opinion, these guys have high ceilings as well, right? So it just remains to be seen. It's just. I'm a one day at a time type of guy, and the best thing about all of those guys is they have great approaches to the game and to their jobs, and they take this thing seriously, So those players are always a pleasure to work with, and those are the type of players that get the most out of their ability.
Awesome. So, Coach Ronnie, just can't wait to see what the rest of the season looks like for you and the team and really keeping up and seeing what's going on there with the Bulls, because you guys are such a super young team that in the next few years, I'm really expecting really big things from and can't wait for this episode to come out and everyone to kind of see what's going on there in Chicago and how special it is. And really thank you so much for coming on.
Man, thank you a lot, John. I appreciate this.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.